Okay, folks. Well, I promise this is going to be a shorter video. It's just an introduction to problem-based learning, which is what you're going to be doing this semester for your project. And I don't know how many people have had any exposure to this, but it's a fairly common strategy that's used in a lot of disciplines. I know our athletic training people use it quite a bit. It's used in various medical professions like nursing and med school for doctors. Basically the standardized patient kind of protocol, but basically students are presented with a problem and it's up to them to go and discover the solution or a solution to the problem. All right, so starting out with something that Albert Einstein said at one time, that most teachers waste their time by asking questions which are designed to discover what students don't know, whereas the true art or purpose of questioning has to discover what the student knows or is capable of knowing. And then Dewey, a famous educator, said that we need to take into account the unique differences between and among the students. That each person differs genetically and in terms of their past experiences. And so even when we present a standard curricula to students using established pedagogical practices, each student has a different quality of experience. The educational theory of constructivism says that we should try to discover what students know, not just start at the beginning for everybody, but to find out where people are at in terms of their knowledge and experience, and then go from there. And that requires more of an individualized kind of a curriculum or design. So we've got to view teaching in the curriculum in a way that allows for the individual differences in students. So more from Dewey, the only way to increase the learning of learners is to augment the quantity and quality of real teaching. And very important things that are underlined here is that, since learning is something that the learner has to do, the initiative lies with the learner. Duh. Okay, so the teacher then, or the leader, serves as a guide and a director of the experience and not necessarily just the deliverer of information. So the director then, or the guide, steers the boat, but the energy that propels it has to come from those that are doing the learning. So, again, the more the teacher or the leader is aware of the past experiences of the learners, their hopes, their desires, their interests, the better the learners will be understood by the leader, and so therefore we can bring the forces to bear that will enhance motivation and lead to deeper learning. So, problem-based learning, what is it? Well, first of all, it's not a spectator sport. Learning's not a spectator sport. My experience is that students don't learn much just by sitting in class and listening. Probably you only hear about 50% of what's said, and you gradually, very quickly, that information starts to decay. You probably only remember maybe half of what you actually hear, so now we're down to 25%, and then maybe you retain some of that for a short period of time, and so, after a fairly short period of time, much of that information disappears. So there are ways to institute deeper learning, and I think problem-based learning strategies are a way to do that. So PBL is an approach to learning that serves as both the stimulus and the context for learning. It's student-centered and allows for new information to be acquired through self-directed learning and, in the next bullet point, discovery. So students work in teams to kind of define the problem first of all, but then to go and discover the possible answers to it and determine what approach they're going to take to answer the problem. So, for learning to occur, you've got to have a good problem, and it's got to be compelling, it's got to be complex, it's got to be real life, and applicable to what the students want to learn. The characteristics of it are that there is no one right solution, but that there are multiple approaches and multiple solutions. And that's, that's kind of, I think, intriguing, that, when you start out, whatever you come up with, if it's well done, can be a right answer. And so you make decisions based upon what you learn, so upon the facts, the information, the knowledge, the research, and you need to cooperate with one another in terms of gathering your information, gathering your data, and synthesizing all of that and putting it together. I will say that my experience with this is that students will try to gravitate to one thing. And for example, if we're trying to design a program that's going to improve individuals' strength and conditioning in an off-season training program, students will automatically say, well, goal setting is the answer. And goal setting is certainly a tried and true approach, but if that was the only thing that there was to it, then we wouldn't have the problem of people not making improvements in off-season conditioning programs. So there's more to it than that. So you need to think deeper, you need to think broader, you need to think about bringing together information, even from other classes that you may have had, to try to solve a problem. All right, so what's your role in the problem-based learning experience? So you're responsible for actively participating in the process, obviously. You get a problem before you receive all the information that you need to solve the problem. And, that can be, kind of disconcerting, and you might feel a little bit lost, but that's part of the process. So, if it was a simple thing, then you'd go, well, duh, the answer is, and that really... that really is not the purpose of this. So you get a complex problem that, really there is, no right answer to, and it is a problem. And so, we're going to see what we can do about trying to solve that this semester. So in teams, you're going to pose questions about what you don't know, what you don't understand, and then try to develop a plan to solve that problem with the resources that are available. And the instructor is a resource that is available, and I can try to guide you and help you along in the process. But don't expect me to give you the answer. What I might do is suggest that you look at something, or have you considered this? I might respond to your question with more questions. And that, again, that's part of the process as well, is to get you to think about this on a deeper level than maybe you've considered. So finally, I hope I don't look like this guy ever. But what's the faculty role in this? A facilitator rather than an instructor. As a designer of the problem, monitoring what's going on in terms of your teams and your learning, somewhat managing the dynamics of the team. We've had some teams that function really, really well. We've had some teams maybe not so well. And so I've got to try to monitor that and see what I can do in terms of providing some assistance there. And then giving feedback along the way. And there's going to be a number of different checkpoints along the way where I'm going to ask you to check in, and that could be through a discussion board where I'm asking some questions about how your team's doing, what kind of progress you've made, or there are a couple of times where we've actually set aside during the term where there's no lessons that week, but the idea is that you would meet with me as a team, and that can be face-to-face. It can be using video conferencing or conference calls or whatever to determine where you're at in the process and what your needs are. I want to be supportive of things that you come up with. I want to try to stimulate your thinking. And the idea is that instead of the sage on the stage where, the instructor is the know-all, be-all, and the giver of information, I'm more of a guide on the side, trying to help you through the process. So I hope this doesn't. Hope this excites you. I hope that you think it's something that you'd like to be involved with. There is a list of potential problems that I posted for you, and what I want you to do is take a look at those, read through them, think about them, and then in a discussion post, I'm going to ask you to list maybe the top 3 that you might be interested, and then we'll see how the teams kind of fall out from there. All right, so that's it for an introduction to problem-based learning, and we will come back to this at a later time.